Hey Algebra 2, this is our first video for problem set 3. In this lesson we're doing two topics. We have evaluating expressions and adding like terms. These are both topics that we should have covered quite frequently in our Algebra 1 book. So hopefully this is some good review for you and hopefully an easy lesson for us to get through. So I have two examples here on the topic of evaluating expressions. Now this whole idea of evaluating means we're going to take out a variable and plug in some number, and we're just going to work out whatever problem is left, work out the expression, and end up with a single answer. Okay? The things we need to watch out for when we're evaluating are exponents and negative numbers. Okay? Those are always things that kind of trip us up. So if you look at this first problem with the a squared minus y to the third, all of that, whenever we go to evaluate, the very first thing that I'm going to always suggest that you do is put in blank parentheses wherever you have a variable before you start plugging in any numbers. So I'm going to go in here and take out all my variables, put in blank parentheses, and with these parentheses that are already here, I'm going to turn those into brackets. So I have an a minus y squared, close the brackets, times another y. All right, sorry, my handwriting's a little sloppy here. This is a little different writing on the screen. So whenever we go to plug stuff in, the a, I'm going to replace with the negative 2. Make sure that goes inside the parentheses. That makes a big difference with the power on the outside. The same with the y. This one's positive though. And then a on the inside is another negative 2, y is a 3, and a 3. All right, now you really got to watch. Follow orders of operation. We have parentheses, exponents. We just got to be careful on what we do here. So starting with this outside stuff, I have negative 2 squared. The question I need to ask is the negative included in the power? Since I put parentheses there, the answer is yes. So negative 2 squared will end up positive 4, and then minus, then I have 3 to the third power. That is 27. I'm going to leave that in parentheses because it is multiplied to whatever's inside the brackets. Okay, so I'm going to put the brackets here, and we'll simplify that. And then outside I have another 3. So I'm going to leave that in parentheses also. So my next step here is I need to do whatever I can inside the brackets. I have negative 2 minus 3 squared, so that's minus 9. All right. Orders of operation says I need to take all of these guys and multiply them together. They're all right next to each other. There's not a multiplication symbol in between, but when they're right next to each other, they're all multiplied together. So this ends up 4 minus 27 times negative 2 minus 9 inside the brackets is negative 11 times 3. Okay, orders of operation, I multiply these things together. 27 times negative 11 times 3. If you multiply that 27 times negative 11 times negative 3 ends up negative 891. And I have 4 minus negative 891. These negatives will cancel. So now it's 4 plus 891 ends up 895. Okay, hopefully that's not too bad. Again, this should be a lot of review. Easy stuff from Algebra 1. Okay, the second example that I have here, the reason I put this one on here, just to get your attention, is that power of 0. You should remember anything to the power of 0 becomes a 1. Now, we got to watch. As long as these are multiplied to something else, x to the power of 0 times y times x, as long as it's multiplied, we can cancel that and it becomes a 1. And the 1 I can kind of ignore because it's multiplied to some other stuff. If there were addition or subtraction there instead of multiplication, you have to have the 1 plus or minus whatever, and that will make a difference. So just watch for that. Okay, this one I can kind of ignore because it's multiplied. So again, I go in here and I'm going to start off by putting blank parentheses for my variables. That's y times x. And then again, the parentheses that are already there, I'm going to turn into brackets. and then another x times a y minus an x squared, and close up the brackets. All right, we're going to plug in a -3 for x and a -1 for y. So out front, this is a y, that's -1 times -3. Inside, this is -3 times -1. And x is -1 right there, or -3 right there. Okay, now we're ready to go to work. Starting with -1 times -3, that is +3, times the brackets. Stuff inside the brackets, I have a -3 times -1, that is +3, minus, again, watch this, -3 squared. The -3 is inside parentheses, so the negative is being squared also, which makes this +9. Close up the brackets. So inside the brackets, 3 minus 9 ends up -6. And my last step, 3 times -6 is -18. Okay? That is evaluating expressions, where we're going to take out variables, plug in numbers, most likely some negative numbers with some exponents. So be very, very careful. I strongly suggest you use the blank parentheses first, and then start plugging in the numbers and work it out. Okay, the second topic in this lesson is adding like terms. Okay, this should also be a review from our Algebra 1 material. These problems might be just a little more complicated. And what you're going to see is most of the time you're going to see a bunch of fractions. And what we're going to need to do is first simplify each fraction the best that we can. And by simplifying, that means reduce, cancel anything that you can, get rid of any negative exponents. Try to get it down as simple as possible. So we go through each fraction, simplify it, reduce it, and then we look to see if we have any like terms. And to be like terms, they have to have the exact same variables with the same exponents. And in a fraction, they got to be on the same level. Then we can add the coefficients together if they happen to be like terms. Okay, so let's go through these two examples here. The very first one, I'm going to do some canceling with the x's and try to put things together. So it starts off, this 2 is going to stay there. And then I try to do some reducing. I see an x squared on top and an x squared on bottom. I can cancel those off. And then also on top, I have an x and another x. So that is an x squared. And then I have y, and this y to the negative first on the bottom. To make that a positive exponent, this y needs to move up to the top. So now I have y to the positive first. So I have a y and a y to the first makes y squared on top. So really all I have is 2x squared, y squared. Really no fraction left to deal with. Minus, we do the same thing on this fraction. I see a 3. The x squared, there's nothing to cancel that with, so that's going to stay x squared. And then on the y's, on top I have y to the fourth, and on bottom I have 2 y's. So when I look to cancel, I can cancel both of these y's off the bottom with 2 of the y's on top, which leaves me 2 y's on top. So that's y squared on top. Sorry, the air conditioner just kicked on. It's going to be kind of loud and distracting. There's not a lot I can do with it. Sorry about that. Okay, the last fraction. When I simplify this, the first thing I would do is let's move all the negative exponents. So on top, I'm going to leave the 7x there, but x to the negative third, I'm going to put that on the bottom, makes it positive. Y to the negative second also moves to the bottom, power is positive. The 2 from the bottom, the 2 negative exponents, move up to the top, become x to the positive fourth, y to the positive fourth. So go through and make everything positive first. Now we can look at this and do our canceling. I have a 7. On top, I have an x and an x to the fourth. That's really 5 x's on top, and I have x to the third on bottom. So I can cancel off 3 of them, which leaves 2 x's on top. And then the same with the y's. Y to the fourth over y squared, cancel 2, leaves another y squared. All right, so here's what we're looking at now. I have 2x squared y squared minus 3x squared y squared plus 7x squared y squared. When you look at the variables, they need to have the same variables with the same exponents. All 3 of these are like terms, so we can put them all together. When we do that, we just combine the coefficients. 2 minus 3 plus 7. 2 minus 3 is negative 1, plus 7 is 6. And the variables stay the same when you're adding or subtracting. Do not change the exponents. The only times that the exponents changes is when you're multiplying or dividing. So those x squared, y squareds just stay. And it's 6x squared, y squared. Okay? Let's look at the second example. Again, move anything with a negative exponent, try to cancel and simplify in each fraction, and then look for your like terms. So the first fraction, I have a to the negative third. I need to make that positive. So this is 2x over a to the third m minus the fraction in the middle. Everything's positive exponent. There's nothing to cancel, so that one's going to stay. 5x over a to the third m plus, on the last fraction, that m to the negative first needs to move up to the top. The a and the x stay where they are. So I have a to the third m over x. Now I look for like terms. When I look at these fractions, the like terms, the first one I have an x over a to the third m. The second term I have an x over a to the third m. Those two are like terms. The last one is flipped over. That's not a like term. So the first two I can put together by combining the coefficients. 2 minus 5 will be a negative 3. And then again, the variables stay like they are. X over a to the third m. So negative 3x over a to the third m plus this other lonely guy that doesn't have a like term, a to the third m over x. That's as far as we can go on that one, so that is our answer. Okay, so evaluating expressions, the first stuff we did, we took out variables, plugged in what they're equal to, and simplify whatever's left. Watch out for negatives, watch out for exponents, and then just simplify. Be careful with orders of operation. On adding like terms, simplify any fractions that you have, get rid of negative exponents, reduce each term, and then look to see if you have any like terms and just add or subtract the coefficients. Okay, that's all from lesson 3. I have a couple of extra sample problems for you to work through on your own. We'll go over those tomorrow, and I wish you luck. See ya.